All right. I just posted a little video about my frustration with the writers on strike. And it's really, really hot today. So I just took a little break and I actually went on YouTube on my phone and I looked at some of the comments. And I want to point out a couple things. Number one, just because I don't like what people are doing doesn't mean I hate them. I don't even, I mean, I do know a lot of these people. But if I disagree with somebody, that doesn't mean I hate them. That's a silly way to look at things. It's not very evolved, for one thing. So that's how it is. Right? The other thing is, my generation is responsible for this. People my age are the people that raised those petulant jerks. That's how it is. You know why? Because we had it pretty easy in the 80s. That's why. Right? You know why we had it easy in the 80s? Because the people who came before us had it harder. That's why. Because tough times, results in tough people, right? I mean, tough people come along in tough times and they make it good times. Right? When they make times so good like we had it in the 80s, just look at cinema and TV shows and everything from the 80s. It was pretty soft. Pretty soft. Right? Well, those 80s, those soft times, has resulted in really soft people. That's what's going on. It's very, very simple and annoying. So that's all I just had to say that. I got friends that are teachers. They're retired teachers now. And I would have these conversations with them all the time about this because, they wanted their tenure, they had a good gig. A lot of them are responsible for where we're at right now because to them, having that job where, they needed their tenure, they got their benefits, they wanted to keep that gig for their pension, they all expressed their disdain for things coming down the pipeline with the Department of Education. All of them. Right? Even now, talk to them. You listen to a teacher sometime when there's nobody else around, who's a friend of yours. Somebody, you know this. Talk to them about the administrators and all the nonsense that they're pushing in the schools that have nothing to do with raising anybody, but programming them with nonsense. They didn't stand up to that. If they would have stood up to that, we wouldn't be dealing with what we're dealing with right now, but they cared about themselves, which is what we all do. I'm not trying to say I'm smarter or better than anybody. I'm just saying I understand it. Just not happy about it. I live a life of solitude and being alone and no kids because I made those choices. That wasn't there's no woe is me about it. I chose that. Because I didn't want to participate in a lot of nonsense. Fine. This whole thing is crazy to me. And when it comes to the writers in particular, my problem with it is this. There is just too much BS in the stuff that they produce. I'm a history buff, okay? I like history. I read a lot about World War II, a lot of first-hand accounts. I knew a lot of people that were there, all right? I can give you examples of shows where, let's forget about World War II for a moment, right? There was a great HBO. I had to drop HBO. This is, when I started seeing all this woke nonsense. Now look, it might not all just be writers. It could be the producers and people behind the scenes who are saying, hey, I want you to write it this way. That's fine. I understand it. But look at that show, Boardwalk Empire. Now look, it's entertainment, but that Nucky Thompson, that was based on a real person. That guy really existed. Now, they probably embellished quite a bit with his relationship with some organized crime, but he was a bootlegger. He did do a lot of those things. It is funny because Steve Buscemi, who I will never knock, because Steve Buscemi is a man. The guy was a fireman. I mean, he's no joke. Steve Buscemi's a cool dude. But Steve Buscemi is a tiny guy. And that goes to show you how great of an actor he is, because the real Nucky Thompson, was a giant of a man. He was well over 6 feet tall. He was a badass. Here's in the show. This is what pisses me off. In the show, in the end, spoiler alert, he gets killed. Kid shoots him. Turns out to be the son of this guy from the beginning of the show. Well, the real Nucky Thompson actually wasn't ever killed. He lived to be 85 years old. And, they had to do that because they wanted to show you crime don't pay, but it actually did pay for him. That kind of stuff bothers me. Right? The first time that really jumped out at me, and again, I understand why, it was a film called Gung Ho from 1943, early in the war, based on a true story. I own the DVD. More importantly, I own a couple books, Edson's Raiders and Carlson's Raiders. If you're into this subject, you should read this because it's pretty wild. These guys were real badasses. And in the film is about a true operation that took place. It was really like our first land assault against the Japanese early on in the war at a place called Makin Atoll, where Marine Raiders arrived there in submarines, and they got in little rubber boats, and they got on the atoll, and killed a lot of Japanese. Blah blah blah. Now in the movie, there's all this ridiculous nonsense. Now keep in mind, this was while the war was happening, so it was a propaganda thing. They're trying to get support for the war, and I understand it. But it's very funny to watch it now because, for one thing, if you read the credits, there's people who, in the movie, they die, but their names are in the credits as advisors to the film because they didn't really die. And in the film, the Marines assault this Japanese base. The Japanese run off into the jungle. While we're killing them all in the jungle, we get a couple guys up on the roof of the headquarters and paint an American flag on because we know the Japanese bombers are going to come back. So we pull back, the Japanese re-inhabit their base, the Japanese pilots see the American flag and bomb their own people. That never happened. None of that ever happened. If somebody was to make a movie about the true assault on Makin Atoll by the Marine Raiders, what actually happened, which I'm not going to get into right now, that is far more entertaining and mind-blowing. The Pacific. This is something that really pisses me off. In that show, I'm watching the show, and there's Marines on the ship on their way to Guadalcanal, and the term Japs is used, and some NCO comes by and goes, well, you shouldn't talk like that. Bullshit! Everybody was talking like that. 6-year-old kids were calling them Japs. It's insane, just the nonsense and the political correctness and the revisionist history that they're constantly peppering us with. And that's my problem with the writing thing and what's happening in Hollywood and everything these days. Because every show, especially TV shows, they don't call it programming for nothing. They are normalizing nonsense. And you've got, why do we need it? I get it. I like entertainment as much as the next person, but if your life is so boring that you need to watch a show or get addicted to some TV show because it's satisfying some sort of emotional need that you have, start living a more interesting life. Why don't you try that? Why don't you go for a walk, talk to your neighbors? Why don't you join the military? Go to some foreign land. Expose yourself to different cultures and interesting people, and then kill them. I'm just saying, all right? Like, it's crazy that it used to be hundreds of years ago where when actors came into little villages in Europe, they were run out of town. They were tarred and feathered because people have to work hard for the things that they make and the things that they earn. And these people come in and basically scam people out of their money. Like, actors were looked down upon. That's how it used to be. Now they run the show. Now they're like royalty for some reason. And the actors today are nothing like they used to be even 30 years ago. Who are these people? So it's crazy. The whole thing is nuts to me. And it's this guaranteed thing. There are no guarantees in life. You know, there's a giant sign when you get to boot camp down there at Paris on. It says, nobody promised you a bowl of cherries. Or the world is a bowl, something along those lines, you know. That's the reality of life. If I make a piece of art, I make a piece of furniture, and I sell it for what I think it's worth, somebody pays me for that. If they sell that piece of furniture to somebody else for more money, I don't get anything out of that anymore. I did my thing, I got paid for it, and now it's gone. That's the world I live in. That's the world I live in. I have no guarantees in my life with what I'm doing. Anytime a client could say, hey, I don't want you to do any more work. Or for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't like me. Maybe they watch this video. I wouldn't blame them. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm starting to think, I don't know if I want to do any work for anybody in the entertainment business in this town. That's actually where I'm at right now, which is crazy because the entertainment business is the whole reason people in this town have money in the first place. It's the reason why people in this town can think the way they do about things, because there's a microeconomy that's always happening here that is not affected by how everything else is falling apart everywhere else. Again, because of the entertainment business. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. You know, I see what's going on. I know what's happening. But we got too soft. That's what's happening. And this thing with, I just feel like the world that we're living in right now is an idiot test. It's like a moron test, and most of you are failing. Most of you are just accepting all this nonsense that you're being told. Oh yeah, you can't say this word anymore. You can't say that word. Oh, that's offensive to somebody. And toughen up. Everybody just needs to toughen up, smarten up, be cool, man. You know. But you're just this. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind over it because this is not how human beings are supposed to be. We're over-coddling one another. We're walking on eggshells now. We got to be careful about what we're saying, to who we're saying, all this. Clearly, you can tell I don't care. And if this affects me in some way, where somebody gives me grief over it, or somebody says, I was going to hire you for something, but I heard what you said, good, because I don't want to do the work for you anyhow. It's fine. There's enough work for everybody, believe it or not. Yeah. You know, in the 80s, didn't matter who you were. You were a man or a woman, or what color you were, or where you came from. Anybody who wanted to work and wanted to have a job had one. The pet rock. The pet rock was a thing. You just need to go back. Look at commercials from the 80s and the stuff that was happening. The stuff people had so much money because they had jobs, because the economy was thriving, that people were spending money on dumb stuff. My apartment is full of shit I don't need. Because I figure out a way to make money and I just buy stuff. I actually got to get rid of it. Matter of fact, pretty much everything is for sale. I'm just saying it right here. let's just move into a commercial now for all the crap that I own. All right. Want to buy something? Hit me up. Look, I'm gonna get off this thing now because I got to move this board. I got 3 more left. I'm sweating my ass off. This paint is setting up too fast. It's kind of pulling on me. By the way, what I'm doing here is I'm priming. I'm rolling the primer on, and I'm dragging a wet brush across in long strokes. You just saw it. And what that does is it leaves me a brush stroke on here. There's a little bit of contamination, little pieces here and there. It's not worth trying to pick them out because once it's dry, I can lay it up here. I can take a little piece of sandpaper and I can just lightly knock those off after it's dry. Then these will all get put on the ceiling. Once they're all up, I'll use a sprayer and I'll spray it, and you'll still see the lines from the paintbrush. So the whole ceiling will look hand-painted. Don't let the tattoos fool you. Have a good day. Be good to one another. And being good doesn't mean you can't tell the truth.